Yes. Mucho bettero.
Mucho bettero. This is like right in my face.
Yeah, it's good. You can see all of your fuzz, face fuzz.
Face fuzz.
Face forced.
The beard.
Hi, Christian.
Hello. You got a cigar that you're going to be smoking?
Whatever you laid on the table here. What do we got here?
I don't know that one.
The Cigar Obsession. First, third? Okay.
Yeah. Boom. Look at that.
Yes, hopefully it's not backwards in the camera there.
It will be backwards. I am smoking a Lord. There we go. Lord Calvert. I don't know how to say that. I think you've had this before. This will be my first time with this one, Christian.
Okay.
I think I've shared one with you before.
Yes, I believe I enjoyed it.
And again, I'm still doing sober January and very much looking forward to February, as there's been a lot of current events that have made me very much want to imbibe. But this is what Christian will be enjoying. Can we put it right there? Hudson Baby Bourbon Whiskey, based out of New York.
Baby bourbon.
Baby bourbon.
That's cute.
They might come out with one called adult bourbon.
Okay. Do we want to talk about why you feel like you're inclined to drink this this week when you're not able to? So it sounds like it's been a long week.
It has been a long week for a lot of, it seems like a national level and a personal level. So a lot of irons in the fire.
Okay.
Feel like, and I think I mentioned to you at the beginning of the podcast, feel like there's a vice on me that's, at least for today, that's pressing like that. And so I have a tendency either to just quit or grind it out. So I'm going to try and grind it out. Maybe I should go to Christ with that too.
It might be a good, tastes like burning. It might be a good thing to do.
Go to Christ with it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that out.
That's usually my last resort. I've been told it should be my first resort as a Christian. But,
Probably by much wiser men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's pretty much everyone in my life. Yeah, so what did you want to talk about today? I think we're going to try something a little new, a little more concise than our usual long form.
Yeah, so it could be a selfish thing of mine since I've had a few schedule additions and changes in my life, but also at the same time wanting to make sure that we're coming out with, relevant, fresh topics that are engaging, as well as just thinking about just the time format. So I think Christian's just kind of going along with it for right now. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah, scale back the amount of time that we're doing these podcasts and these videos to, somewhere between maybe 15 to 30 minutes. And 30 minutes might be a little bit more reasonable. But we also want to, or I'm proposing to be more practical in what we are offering to all of you. And so we are a dad podcast, and we do like whiskey, we do like cigars. We don't go into great in depth on the whiskey or the cigars. We like to give you just kind of a taste, but we have been very globally focused on a lot of our topics as of late. And so what I've been thinking about wanting to do is bring it down to kind of a local level. What are dads dealing with?
So we say global and local, you mean kind of like instead of the broad topics, how can we get specific on specific tactics?
Yeah, what are dads dealing with,
Okay.
like on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Like the dad that gets up and goes and works a 9 to 5. Like, I'm sure that topics and conversations around freedom and independence and predestination, maybe somewhere in his thought life on a day-to-day basis. But more than likely, what he's thinking about is, okay, like what's the commute to work going to look like? What tasks do I have to get done at work? Like how am I going to deal with my kids when I get home? What's for dinner?
Sure. How do I make time for my family?
Those sorts of things. And so I want to try, at least for the next several episodes, do a series it's shorter in episode length, but it's more focused on tips and practical stuff. We're not going to take away the whiskey. We're not going to take away the cigars, which we encourage you.
To pry them out of my cold, dead hands.
That's right. We encourage you to grab your whiskey and grab your cigar, and let's roll. We are the Old Fashioned Dad Podcast, seeking to love dads and men through the person and work of Jesus Christ, while entering into tough conversations on marriage, mental health, sex, and parenting, all while sipping good whiskey. So, why don't we jump right into the topic at hand, Christian.
Yes,
That I was thinking about.
Okay.
Your name's Christian. My name's Christian. We're all Christians.
We are Christians.
Yeah. Playing with your kids. The importance of playing with your kids. Now, you have a kid, right?
I've got a 9-year-old son.
9-year-old son, which I think sons equate for 2 kids.
Mine does.
I have 2 daughters, which might equate to 1 kid. No, we're not gonna do that.
I'm sure they're challenging in their own ways.
They are. Lately, they've been pretty good lately. But I was thinking about why is it important to, like, when I say play with your kids, I don't mean sit down and like necessarily just spend time with them on the couch reading or
Play Scrabble.
playing Scrabble, or do kids play Scrabble?
Part cheesy.
Or Uno.
That's fun.
Or playing video games with them. But I was like thinking like physically playing with them. It could be running around outside. It could be riding bikes and doing kind of physical activities with them.
Sure.
Wrestling and tickling comes to mind, especially with younger kids. But I thought this was a really important topic that we could try and spend, 10 or 15 minutes going over and thinking about.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, so do you think you play with your kid? Do you want to play with your kid?
Yes. So here's my train of thought on this. When you brought this up, I'm like, oh, here's one more thing I feel that. I'm sure none of our dad listeners ever feel that way, but I tend to be pretty goofy and just kind of like, I try to tell my wife, I'm like, 90% of what I say, I'm joking, and I say it for my entertainment purposes. So I'm not a super serious guy. Which can get awkward in serious conversations, but when I'm cracking jokes inappropriately. So when it comes to my kid, he's pretty jovial and happy, and so like we goof around all the time. He wants to tickle and like he has little hand puppets that he wants to make stories with and stuff. And so my challenge is working at home, is how do I separate kind of the work and personal life, because I could work perpetually. There's always more to do. So I think it's important to just kind of like in life be playful, But I also think it's important, and this is something that I really struggle at. I have it on my calendar, but it tends not to be super, especially with COVID and stuff, with us not leaving the house very much. It tends not to be super consistent with, and it's a time block of for lack of a better term, I always call it like a father-son time. With daughters, daddy-daughter dates is kind of a common term, and the idea is dedicated time, just me and my kid. What do you want to do? And I think that's huge. I think being playful and just engaging with them on a regular basis is good. But I also think there's something to be said about regular one-on-one time with your kid that's like, you're in charge of this, what do you want to do? Let's spend some time together.
Right.
Just like you do with date night with your wife.
Yeah. You go on dates with your wife?
We try to. She was just ribbing me this morning about, hey, when's our next date night? Which we're not going out a lot. I think we went out once, this last quarter. And that was nice, we went out to the local place, had some outside seating.
Yeah.
But typically it's like, okay, well, we're, intentionally setting aside time to do something together. It tends to look like, Netflix and chill until one of us passes out.
Yeah, right.
Not super romantic, but it's still time that's set aside. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. If you have any thoughts on that or how to be more successful with,
I wanted to, I appreciate the examples. And, as you were talking about like the father-son kind of hangout, I doubt you'd probably call it a father-son date, but
not so much.
Probably father-son time together.
Right. But my wife and I tried to do that, separately with him to kind of show like, hey, you're important to us. Like, we want to hang out with you. We want to get to know you one-on-one. Yeah.
And so one of the pieces that I'm looking at when coming, talking about this topic is definitely the brain development and the mental health development that comes out of that.
Okay.
There are some studies. I want to say back in Germany, back in the day. I don't remember exactly the decade, but
1623.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe 1492.
It's Ottoman, part of the Ottoman Empire. Then
they, you know what? Actually, I don't know the country, but I know that there were studies done where kids they took like babies that had no parents or anything like that, and they raised them in kind of like isolation, and like their brains didn't develop, and or they had like abnormality
Sure.
to it, versus kids that were developed, like raised with parents, and that's a completely different topic, but there is something to be said about the neurological development that happens with kiddos when you spend time, especially play with them, and as well as the mental health, the emotional health that happens. And so, but there was a piece in there that you mentioned that I thought was really good, is like spending time like that with your kids shows them they're a priority. They may not know that is exactly what you're doing or be able to articulate that.
Sure.
But much later in life, there will be kind of this, I hate to use the phrase return on investment, because that's not why you do this.
Oh, I don't do anything unless there's something in it for me.
But there is this kind of ROI that does happen later in life,
Sure.
And I get to speak with adults that they have parent issues from when they were growing up, like people in their 40s and 50s. They're like, yeah, I didn't experience much love or much time with my dad, and so they're like, there's this deficit,
Sure.
or even similar with mom.
Sure. No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, I obviously, we're all going to have our own experiences, but the things that stand out to me, in my formative years are the getting up at ridiculous hours and going on a fishing trip with my dad and grandpa.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't particularly fun, but like that was something I got to do with the guys, with the men.
Yeah.
But I enjoy fishing. I still don't fish, but but it was that experience, that time, the quality of time.
You were included, and it was very relational.
Right. And to this day, I still have a fondness of the big green Coleman thermoses and breakfast at Hardee's because like that's when my grandpa always had his thermos and his coffee, and we'd get a special breakfast on the way out and stuff. It's like I think those moments that we set aside with our kids as intentional time are going to be the things that they remember.
Yeah, you're right, and I think it goes a long way in being able to speak into your child's life. And so coming back to physically playing with them, physically being with them, it shows that they're a priority, and it shows that they're fun.
Sure. That we enjoy being with them. We're not just like tolerating them and being in the same house as us.
Yeah, you're not necessarily an obligation. And I know that I have at points really struggled with that piece, like seeing my children as obligations.
Sure.
Because I'm busy, I'm doing work, but I think that these are reminders from God saying like, hey, spend time, take time away from work, take a break, take rest, and engage with your family that I gave you. Play with them, tickle them, create memories, chase them down the hallway, have a pillow fight with them,
Sure.
And it's those sorts of things that develop relational equity with your kids.
Yeah, relational equity, that's a very cold term, but I agree. But I mean, I think that's a good point. Just the God's calling us to enjoy our kids, enjoy our family, not just tolerate them and look at them as an obstacle in our workday or getting stuff done.
And
which I'm mostly saying this as a reminder to myself.
Do this.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
This. And I'm certain there's probably plenty of child developmental studies that are out there that support playing with your kids, but they're doing so from like a neurological perspective, because like from age 0 to age 10, the neurodevelopment is just off the charts. Like neurons and neural pathways are being created by the hundreds and thousands, if not millions. And so when we're, as fathers, we're capitalizing during that time on playing with our kids, like it's being cemented into them like, hey, this is normal and this is good and healthy.
Yeah, I'm hoping with my son almost being 10 that I haven't permanently damaged him, since his neural pathways are largely focused. I mean, my wife, she's a dietitian and much smarter than me, and so she's always reading books and telling me about how so much of a kid's development is like first 5 years of their life, whether that's nutritionally or relationally or how they engage and stuff. And kind of to your initial example you're giving, about some European country at some point in time that you don't remember. I remember
Probably
hearing something
European.
about that.
It's
you know,
probably
I think it was like Russian or Austrian or something, but
German,
it was something along those lines where the way they used to do foster care. There's no one around for the babies, and they just cry until they realized, oh, this isn't getting me anywhere, and they stop crying. They stop interacting with people.
Right.
Like it broke them as a human.
Yeah.
Not getting that connection and attention that most kids get.
Yeah, and where we kind of like science leaves here a little bit, like, I mean, science does touch on the emotional side of things, but I think that scripture, the spiritual side of things, really hits home more on the relational side of things, and less so from a clinical perspective. And so, I mean, like if you just take the model of the Trinity, like the Trinity is relational, we're built to be in relationship, so it makes sense when we spend time being in relationship, especially with our kids in this way. Yep. And I think it's worth pointing out that do this now, dads, because like from 0 to 10, you're not going to get that time again.
Sure.
You're not.
Sure. Well, and I would say, once again, this is kind of a reminder myself, like it's never too late in the sense of like it's better to, if you haven't done it, like start now, versus, well, I didn't do it, I guess that's all she wrote and it's set in stone.
Better late than never is
right.
is a good mentality to take on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is tough for me because I tend to be a very linear, systematic person. Like if there's like a series of things in the middle of the series and I missed it, like I usually won't jump into it because I'm like, well, I missed out the first half. If I can't do it all or nothing,
Sure.
But that's just how I think. So it's probably an impediment in my thinking. But
well, I don't know that I necessarily have much more to add to this particular topic. I think we've covered it as much as I feel comfortable with, and I love hearing the sirens in the background there.
it's good. It's nice. Reminds you of the fallen world we live in.
This is true.
Yeah. No, I like the topic and trying to keep it short and sweet. But I guess that my encouragement to listeners, to fellow fathers, is be intentional with your kids. Try to set aside. If it's not weekly, monthly, just intentional time, to let your kid know, even if you don't have a name for it, like, let's set aside some time, just me and you, what do you want to do? And let them know that they've got some say, that you care about what they care about. And they're not always just at your mercy of doing what you tell them to do.
Yeah, Christian, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And boys and girls are going to be different in their interests, obviously. But your kid, God's given you your kid, and so spending time with your kid is building that relationship and making sure that they trust you. And man, it's such a good thing to play and with your kids. And don't underestimate, dads, how much that actually will benefit you and feed you. And so get in there, play with your kids, tickle them, go for bike rides, pillow fights, all that sort of stuff. So in the meantime, thanks for listening to this episode. Play with your kids and the importance of it. And
Get matching tattoos.
Matching tattoos, yeah.
Just bond.
In the meantime, check us out on all the socials, the YouTubes, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and give us a thumbs up, give us a positive rating. We love that sort of stuff because it helps us get our message out there. And we'd love to hear from you if you got a topic that you'd like us to cover, because we are experts on anything and everything when it comes to dads.
Mostly experts
whiskey.
on what not to do, yeah. But
The cigar part we are not experts on. The Honest Cigar Experience podcast, they are experts on that, which is an excellent podcast. Check them out as well. But in the meantime, dads, we love you, we care about you, we're praying for you. Have a great night.